No more Mr. Nice Guy. No more.
Rewind.
Now, if he said the word Disney, it would evoke childhood memories of Goofy, of Pluto, of Donald. Now, no wonder I hated that friggin' duck. I was always a Daffy Duck fan myself, rooting for Warner Brothers and their political, incorrect, anarchic humor. Look, if you ever seen an old Daffy Duck cartoon from the 1930s, he'd be falling down the side of a building, he would suddenly stop midway, wolf whistle at an unseen woman, then carry on falling all the way to the ground and never hurt himself. What a dude, what a duck. But by the contrast, you have the Disney safe space, you know, we've got sprinkles of magic dust all over your cakes and your food and everything else, and maybe you levitate, because that's what it was to me personally when I hear that description. It sounds like Disney were on drugs, but couldn't tell you that. And of course, when we're talking about 2022 in Disney, oh, it gets funnier by the second. So if we dig into this headline here, actually, which I thought is worth a read. So I think it was Thursday, Ron DeSantis, I keep calling him Bob for some reason, he managed to pass a law through the Florida state, which is basically that bill that they call the Don't Say Gay bill. And in fact, it doesn't even state that at all. It's the Parental Rights Education Bill, which prevents children from the ages of 4 to 8 years old, I believe, to not be taught anything about sexuality, whether it's homosexuality, heterosexuality, transgenderism, none of that, because kids are kids. When they hit puberty, they can start asking questions. It's plain and simple. Any good, responsible parent will know that. I'm not a parent, but I'm speaking on behalf of what is common sense. Because you know what, folks? Common sense is something that still needs to be prevailed. It still has to be outspoken, and we don't get that at the moment. So just to quickly go through this article here, courtesy of Yahoo News, the House voted 68 to 38 in favor of the bill, a day after the state Senate voted 23-16 in approval. What I should add here as well, even Democrats, or some Democrats, were supporting this bill to go through. So it's not just a one-sided thing where it's just the Republicans, it was both sides, which was a nice thing to see. The bill would dissolve the Reedy Creek Improvement District near Orlando, a zone that allows Disney to act as a self-governing body. Kind of ironic with that catchphrase now, right? And establish its own regulations, building codes, and other municipal services like the fire services. Disney receives tax exemptions under that arrangement, and they've been doing so since 1968. However, that will all change as long as there's no obstructions or any oppositions from Disney, which I bet they're thinking of doing, but they're going to fall maybe flat on their fat faces when this all goes through next year. Now, of course, you know, but Ron DeSantis can't just get away with this and let it be done with. Nope, he has to get some idiot trying to call him out. This idiot is Jared Polis, who's a Democrat, and he basically has said, well, Mickey and Minnie, they can seek full asylum in Colorado, and you can ditch the sunshine state of Florida and make your way over to our nice cozy little safe space in Colorado. And of course, he's now accusing Ron DeSantis of socialist attacks on the private sector. But yeah, I'm going to get to those social attacks in a minute, but I just want to go back to this Yahoo News item here. And now this is Chris Sprouse. He's the House Speaker, who said, you have a company like Disney who takes this special power and privileges that have been granted to them by the people and by the taxpayers in Florida. Okay, to use that power and privilege to mislead the public on laws that are being discussed and passed in the legislature is wildly inappropriate. DeSantis said in an email, Disney and other woke corporations won't get away with peddling their unchecked pressure campaigns any longer. which is hilarious. You know what? You gotta applaud the dude for saying that, man. Bob, Ron. I keep calling him. I'm sorry, Ron. It's Ron. I keep calling you Bob. Ron DeSantis. I don't know why. He reminds me of a Bob. DeSantis does remind me of a New York detective. He's kind of got that physique about him, that swagger, like he can just bulldoze through suspects. I know who I think he reminds me of, but I can't say that New York detective's name because they have got a really checkered past. But he kind of reminds me of that dude. And I was going to use him for a comparison here, but I'm glad I didn't actually, because it would have been one of the worst takes I've ever made. And, look, DeSantis, he's definitely got a lot more aspirations than we give him credit for. But it was one of those things where Disney thought, well, he's not going to do anything. No, we'll just get away with peddling our awful narrative and no one's ever going to suspect a thing. Problem is, Disney, I already noticed this in your films from last year in the MCU phase bore. They call it 4, but I call it bore. Take Black Widow, take Shang-Chi, films where you take your families to and you have like grade C or grade D female characters talking about female body parts. Oh, heaven forbid if a man mentioned a female body parts, how that would go down. But either way, can you imagine coming out of the theatre and then your kids ask you, Mummy, what is a fallopian tube? Mummy, what is a vajayjay? Because why the hell would kids below 11 taken to see a Marvel film would discuss that with you afterwards? I'll tell you what it is that indoctrination that Disney are getting through even their bigger franchises at the moment. Well, they're sinking franchises. Nobody's interested in what these Disney Marvel films are peddling anymore, and that's what they are. They are peddling movies. Nobody cares. If you saw the Thor Love and Thunder trailer this week, you can see the hints of what's going on there with the LGBTQ narrative. God almighty, will it ever stop? Will it ever come to the day where we can just go and watch a movie that has no agenda to it? Well, I tell you what, there is one movie that does that. It's called The Northman. Go and see that. Okay, let's just go to this video very quickly. It's Disney Reimagined Tomorrow. Absolutely cringe. You had a mother on here who's got 2 children. One is transgender, one is pansexual, and they have mobile phones or cell phones. Like, that is the most irresponsible thing I've seen and I've heard. And it's just a very weird, cultish mindset going on with Disney. I can see why DeSantis finds this all repugnant and vile and reprehensible. I can't blame him actually. But let's take a quick look at this video, because now I've got to say one thing before I do play this clip. Have they superimposed someone's head on another person's body? Because I don't know what's going on here. And by the way, Bob Chapek, that man should have kept his mouth damn shut. That's all he had to do, but nope, he was pressured into making a video, a very cringe video where, by the way, Bob, you're doing a great impression of a burns victim right there and then. All that makeup slathered, all the shine sheening through, it was hilarious. And the dude looked uncomfortable. But I know there was some coercion from Bob Iger as well. He that is just evil. And then Susan Arnold, right? She's the woman sat above Bob in that food chain of Disney. Did she bully Bob Chapek into making that awful speech in the live stream? I don't know. But yeah, this person here, they got like a man's head and put it over somebody else's body. It is just so, to me, it's just really funny. But let's just listen to what they have to say here.
And we got into a very similar conversation, Carrie, of like, oh, all of our like gender nonconforming characters are in the background. And so it's not just a numbers game of how many LGBTQ plus characters you have. We got the further, the more centered a story is on a character, the more nuanced you get to get into their story.
Can I just garrot myself right now? Holy shit. I mean, you had a woman towards the end of this video who's talking about how they're going to squeeze in so many narratives into one character. Oh, God. That's why I'm going to be finishing my subscription with Netflix by the summer. I'm going to go through all of their non-woke content from Korea or South Korea, Japan. I'm going to watch all of that shit. And I'm going to watch my Australian movies and anything that isn't woke, basically. A lot of Australian cinema doesn't have any wokeness in it at all, and that's what I want to get away from. And you do wonder why I don't make many trips to the cinema anymore, because to be honest, apart from the Nick Cage film I'm going to be watching later on, the unbearable talent of, what was it, the unbearable weight of talent, which I can't wait to see. And yeah, Pedro Pascal, he's definitely a little bit on the woke side, but I like Nick Cage. He's really old school, and that's good enough for me. You know, films like that I will go and see, but you know, I was talking to a friend last night, and I just said to him, look, I'm not interested in watching the Thor Love and Thunder movie. I'm not going to be pulling myself to the cinema, to go and watch Doctor Strange 2, because if you've seen a poster for that film, it is very much focused on Wanda, and how Strange is in the background, which is kind of funny when you consider he's meant to be the new icon, the new mascot, after we lost Tony and Steve Rogers from the MCU. So it's going to be an interesting one to see whether whether the MCU, whether Marvel films start to fold in on themselves. And I've always said this, and I'll say it before, you could have ended it at Infinity War, and then if you want to start reimagining the Marvel Universe again, that was your step-off point. Not at Endgame, just at Infinity War. And that would have been perfect, because the way that movie ended, you could just easily reset a few things here, there, and everywhere. And I'm sorry, Steve giving up the mantle of Captain America so he could be with Peggy. Now, Haley Atwell, I mean, I wouldn't say boo to a goose with that woman, but honestly, why on earth would you give everything up to have that dance with Peggy? It did not make any sense whatsoever. And people who said to me, oh, Jason, you gotta give Disney a chance. Nah, not really. Like Alice Cooper, no more Mr. Nice Guy, no more. But on that one, folks, if you enjoyed this video today, make sure you leave a like below, slap that subscribe button like it's Dolly Parton's boobies, and if I were you, I'll check me out on my next video.
Women do not exist to be nice on the eyes for you.
The First Amendment and boobs. So those are the only two things I believe in absolutely in the country.